Hi everyone, my name is Rachel Kerrigan, and this is my personal narrative. I just want to put out front that this week I was diagnosed with mono, so my throat is very sore and my voice is a little shaky and a lot quieter than it normally is. So I just want to throw that out there that I'm really sorry about my voice and my throat. So my personal narrative is all about this one day that completely changed my life. I attend church and I can show you the logo. I attended Berean Bible Church, pastored by Tim Kenny, and his wife was Joy Kenny. They have 4 kids, and at the time I was dating their oldest son, Samuel. So Sam was actually off at college on this day. A little background about the church is my family and the Kenny family and a couple other families put this church together, and the Kennys actually moved in with us for quite some time. So our families and the Kenny family are very, very close, which is always awesome. So back to the story. Sam was off at college, and I was just trying to get in the good graces of his mom, as any girlfriend would or should. We were having lunch that day, and her and I were making some tuna salad and just talking and sharing some different stories, and I was looking for her insight on or advice for a couple different things. So Mr. Kenny had just come home. He was working at Home Depot and he was really hungry, so he was making some chicken and rice and stuff. And I had received a text message from some friends asking if I wanted to go out to the gym. And I was like, of course, because everyone needs to go to the gym, especially me. So I met up with a friend at the gym, and her and we worked out for about an hour. And then I made it home. And after I made it home, my mom took me aside and she's like, hey, we really need you to go sit with the other 3 kids, the Kenny kids, because Mr. Kenny was just rushed off to the hospital. So I was like, okay, yeah, Mom, I can do that. That's not a problem at all. So I drove back to the Kenny house and I sat with Jake, Ellie, and Anna, Sam's little siblings. And so we sat and waited, and Jake told me what had happened, that his dad had passed out on the couch and that he gave CPR and called 911 because his mom was freaking out. He got the girls outside and everything. So after they rushed him off by ambulance, Mr. Kenny and my parents and my grandparents and Mrs. Kenny were all at the hospital. I received a text at 6:30 that night telling me that Mr. Kenny, Pastor Tim Kenny, had passed away that night, and that I was not allowed to tell the kids, I was not allowed to tell anybody, and I might have to bring the kids to the hospital later that night and to just keep calm, pretend like nothing was happening until Mrs. Kenny came home to tell the kids. So I went and took a shower and tried to kind of wrap my mind around it, even though that definitely was not what happened. I was just so confused, so dazed. So I waited and waited and waited to find out what was going to happen. It finally hit 10:30 that night, and I still had not told the kids, knowing this information that their dad had passed away and a close friend of mine. I just waited. And 10:30, my parents and Mrs. Kenny came in. You could see that they'd obviously been crying, and the kids knew that bad news was on the way. And all of us sat there, my mom, my dad, me, and the 3 kids, and Mrs. Kenny. And Mrs. Kenny sat in the middle of the living room. I sat next to Jake, and the girls were on the couch. My parents were on the chairs. And Mrs. Kenny proceeded to tell her 3 kids that were in the room that their dad had passed away. So the next day, me and my dad went to Boston and picked up Samuel from the airport, and the following 2 weeks was the funeral. And this day dramatically changed my life because I lost my pastor, my friend, just a second dad. So this is my personal narrative that is very touching and true to my heart. To never take anything for granted and enjoy all the time that you have with the people you love. Thanks so much for listening.